Cool, cool. I I just clicked a button and it just worked. So we got lucky. We got lucky.
Yeah. Well, before anything, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Nick Mueller?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
And congrats, you were one of the few to actually get that correct.
How have other people said it?
I get Mueller, Miller.
Miller.
Um, yeah, Miller's yeah, that one I'm always confused by. I'm like, where did you get the I? There's a U E in there. Okay, whatever.
How many times?
So,
How many times growing up did you get a Bueller joke?
well, in high school, pretty much every day. So that was a consistent basis. So it was funny. I've never seen the movie. I've only seen like snippets of it.
You're honestly not missing much. It's one of those that's kind of overrated, and I'll go on. I'll literally go on record and say that.
Yeah, after being hearing it so much, I was like, I think I'm good. I think I know enough about the movie to kind of guess what's gonna happen. So
Well, how you doing, man? I'm really glad to finally meet you. I've been kind of stalking you guys, you and Tyler on some live streams.
yeah, yeah, I'm doing good. Well, it's finally nice to also meet the person behind the account. Because a lot of times, you're chatting with all these people and you get just hit up all the time. You don't always know like who's the other person on the side or like just kind of like where are people coming from. So it's nice to kind of just have some one-on-one sometimes.
Yeah, I could have been like a
Thanks.
two-headed cat, and you wouldn't have known.
I'd still be fine with it. It'd be no big deal.
Well, to start things off, welcome to the Godfo Universe podcast. This is my informal intro because I hate the way my voice sounds, and I'm trying to get someone else to create one for me. So I'm Dan, and today we are with Nick Mueller, who is another indie comic creator who has run at least one or two successful crowdfunding campaigns: Demon Hunter, Raven, and Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter. Is that correct?
That is correct. Actually, I think I'm up to 9 now. I've
Okay.
run 9 consecutive campaigns, and um, yeah, definitely looking to just pump out another 6 this year. So that number's gonna go up. It's gonna go up.
Well, that's what's interesting about you is that you do this full time, don't you?
Yes, yes, and a few things on the side. Being a full-time creator is not something that I think a lot of people want to do, but it's definitely not cut out for everyone. I've been learning that, especially this last year, that the dulls, the lulls, there's a lot of times where people are clapping and cheering for you. Then there's other times where people are just sneering at you, and you're like, oh, I just want to quit.
When does the clapping start?
Um, in some cases, you almost have to force it. There was one creator I remember talking to him where he's like, if you don't start telling people that you want the accolades, people won't really kind of bring it your way. Like you have to kind of bring value to the table. Um, like I'm sure we can all think of our favorite properties and the things that we really enjoy. So you kind of have to almost create that atmosphere of sort of acknowledgement.
Yeah,
Excuse me. And there's ways to do it. There's ways to kind of do that without being crass about it or really stupid or annoying. I know like when you're running a crowdfunding uh, time period, you're selling, 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 and that can be really off-putting to people that are following you that don't care about that side of things or are just simply waiting for you to drop another funny comment. So
hmm
um, you'll see a lot of people kind of roll in and out. Uh, so you, and then you get the other half too, where people only talk to you when you're running a campaign and they want to jump on so they can get some of your side promotion because they know people are looking at your stuff. And it goes two ways. It's always finding people that are in the same space as you. Because I know a lot of the people that I met 2 years ago, um, I'd say about 70% of them are no longer in the picture or at a reduced pace or in a whole entire different setting compared to what it was even 2 years ago.
yeah. That's what's well. Here's the thing: is my artist and I, Josh Adams, we've been working on like this universe that we're working on for about 10 years.
Mm,
But that was novels and music records and comics. But we didn't really start studying indie comics until like last year. And
gotcha.
we were amazed within like the 12 to 18 months how volatile it is. And you just saying that, like, even just 2 years ago, like I believe every word of it.
Right, right. Yeah, when you step into this area, like I said earlier, it's just about what value do you bring to it. I mean, you're first getting in, you bring no value. You have, unless you're just amazingly skilled at writing or like you stand out above the others, but you'll find out quickly that most people don't really care. It's like what pro quota can you give in some cases, which not I'm not saying that is the general, like everyone falls to that sort of thing, but you'll find that a lot of people in this space um, want something out of it because everyone wants their name out there, everyone wants something to sell. So you run into a lot of cool people, and you run into a lot of people that are just here trying to get in and out. Well, maybe not so much out, but they forget the human interaction part of it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, to that's why I wanted to talk with you, and I've got Tyler coming on in about 2 weeks.
Oh, cool,
But
cool.
you two guys, I've been talking with some people in messaging, but I mean, here's the thing, not to make this about us, but or me real quick, but I mean, I come from a music background, and
Mm,
music scenes. I mean, those are vicious places where everybody's out for everybody, and it's cutthroat.
that's what I hear.
Yeah. Well, what stuck out to you guys, and I saw you first. What stuck out, I was like, man, the way Nick talks, I can tell that you're not in it completely for the money, and that you have a genuine interest in character, in IPs, and people.
Well, thank you for noticing because sometimes it doesn't feel like that, especially when you're running this so much. Um, like I said, sometimes it feels like you're selling, and it can be very off-putting to people. But yeah, I mean, there is a part of me that it is in it for the money, obviously, to pay my bills
Yeah.
and continue the business. That's a different thing where um, you can tell the people are in it for money because they crash and burn very quickly. They
Mm-hmm.
don't stay in it very long, and they'll go and run a crowdfunder and they'll have this absurd amount that they want to run by, and they're like
Mm-hmm.
20K, and you're like, man, you haven't built a name for yourself, you haven't built an audience, you haven't even built a network, and you're lucky if you get $500, which was my first campaign. When I first came out the door, I had a goal of $500, and I ran that campaign for 30 days, and we didn't hit our goal until the last 3 days. It took me 28 to 27 days to hit $500.
That's still an
But now,
accomplishment, though.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're first coming out there, there's a lot of proving, a lot of hazing, in a good way. Like you want to earn people's trust. Just because you come out there and you put out a product, maybe you've heard the old saying, if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily necessitate the same ideas nowadays because if you build it, you have to show them that it's built well, the foundation is good, you've done some really good interior design, it's safe, and you will deliver on it as well. We've run into a lot of issues with people not delivering or delivering subpar or not living up to the promise that they brought to the crowdfunder, or even just selling on their own terms or on their own site or um, what they're putting before you.
Yeah, that's I actually got into a slight tiff. I try not to dunk on people on Twitter or get into Twitter drama, but I did get into a slight, I guess, push back and forth about that. It's like it's really simple, like make quality work and
Right,
deliver on time. And there's
right.
there's no other business where you can't do that except for this kind of crowdfunding stuff. Like, and so many people use it as an excuse, and it's like, no, you make a product and you give it to people, and it's business.
Right. And you can't continue doing what you want to do if you don't deliver that product or it's in. I think if you're willing to learn, if you deliver something that maybe has some errors to it, um, like my first one had a lot of grammatical errors, which they all do to some necessity, but my first one was egregious in that manner, and it was really off. And um, I mean, if you read my posts, you'll see that aplenty. But being able to hire on an editor or someone to proofread it and find as many as we can, so that when it does get into the reader's hands, backer's hands, it's as foolproof as possible. Obviously, not everything is going to be 100% error free, but I think even just knowing that if you do misstep, having the grace and the mindset that you can learn from it and still provide something better next time. Because I don't think I know of many creators that they came up the gate swinging and hit a home run right off the bat. There's a lot where you're seeing, like sometimes in a lot of cases with crowdfunding, you're seeing the opportunity to invest into someone, and you want to see them keep doing better. Because I know there's a ton, like even we brought up Tyler already,
Mm-hmm.
and he's already good at what he does.
Yeah.
But seeing each new release that he's put out has been dramatically better. Like if you read the first volume of The Girl with the Mega Fist to the second volume, it does leap in terms of quality, in terms of story pacing and what he's measuring to do. And I know there's a ton of creators that I talk with that we're constantly always. I'm gonna say the type of rivalry or competition we have isn't necessary to be like, oh, I really hate that guy. It's more of like if I don't push him to do better, I'm not going to do better because he's not going to push me. So we have like this group of guys that are just like, we need to get to that next level. We need to get to that next yard mark. Otherwise, we're done, because this is a very competitive field, and you could be out of the running next month before
Mm-hmm.
you even start trying.
And that's what I love seeing actually. Is I see people accepting the challenge and rising to it, and
Yeah,
because you have to fail forward. I mean, you can either
yeah,
not try, which is the worst, and you can quit, which is the second worst.
right,
But you're gonna make mistakes, and you just fell forward. And it seems like so many people have, especially in the Instagram world we live in. People think that you have to be perfection at all times, and it's like, man, that's not how reality works, and that's not how people work. Um,
right.
I'm not trying to change the subject. I just I've watched some of y'all's streams, and I see a lot of creators talk with the creators. And I want you to pimp your book, and I'm trying to keep it up as much as possible because I mean that's why we're here. But
Right.
I really wanted to talk with you personally because I picked up clearly the religious themes from like your book and what you post, and you seem to have a deep care about IPs. Like when you're doing Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter, I saw your video on your hatred of like the gory horror movie. And I'm not trying to
Yeah,
harp on that, and I'm not trying to boost bad things, but when people are passionate about something, especially a visceral hatred for something, and it's something like that,
right.
that's good. Like you should despise certain things, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so to just preference, I'm a pretty even keel person. I just, like I just made a post today about like, I like a lot of things that are technically garbage.
Mm-hmm.
That people are saying that's technically your guilty pleasure. Totally fine with stuff. If you like something, like it, we should be able to converse and still agree to disagree. If you like something that I don't like, that shouldn't change my paradigm or change any of this of the situation of me and my thoughts on it.
Oh yeah.
But to me, though, if you're going to take something like Winnie the Pooh, which is meant to be a story for kids, it's about kids, it's about innocence, it's about friendship, and then go around and turn around, we're going to make it a slasher film like, Jason, Friday, Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
That just that's a cheap grab for me. And diving more into the company that's making this, that's kind of all they're known for. And I rarely want to say this about other creators, but I just go, it's just completely bankrupt in terms of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, let's. And I'm saying this without knowing the person, so I feel really conflicted about even saying about someone personally. So I'm just gonna attack. I'm just gonna say this about the particular product itself: is I don't think any of it is good. I don't care for it. I think it's stupid beyond measures. Because if you look at the history and the legacy of Winnie the Pooh
Mm-hmm.
and where it comes from, even the actual inner story of the creator himself, Mill, and his son Christopher, and what it's based off of, and you see the inner turmoil that's in that, to even make a movie based upon a slasher flick like that, where he's killing all the people, is disrespectful to the people that created it. And then the legacy, it's been around for 70, no, it's over 100 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So that means 100 years worth of people have grown up, loved it, and created a fan base. And even if you look at the documentations of the highest financial records of like when Walt Disney took over Winnie the Pooh was the third highest financial thing for them in their company. So
Jeez, I didn't even know that.
yeah, I didn't know that either until kind of doing some research on it. Because when I take on something or even creating something, I want to be very respectful, because there's another person on the other end of it that's going to view this, and it can't just be me that just goes. I'm still going to make it, and I'm still going to have fun with it, because if I'm not passionate about it, then why should you enjoy it? But at the same time, I have to make sure, is this going to be enjoyable by someone else on the other end?
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, it should just stay with me. It shouldn't even go any further than that. And I feel like this is just simply viral cash grab crap.
Yes.
To put it as kind as possible.
Cynicism at its worst.
Yes, and
Uh,
that has its place. That definitely has its place. But I think this is the wrong story for the wrong character and the wrong property.
yeah, I think perversion of a childhood icon is never good.
Right, right. And we can always make jokes about like turning Barney into this dinosaur that's actually eating the kids when he's there. There's a
Yeah.
place for those sort of jokes, but then to actually realize those ideas
Mm-hmm.
doesn't always like. If there's a funny YouTube video where someone's just knocking funny at it, like I probably would have a whole entire different feeling and idea about it. But the fact that it's going to get a theatrical release, it's getting this really big notoriety, just doesn't sit well with me. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would have cared as much as if I wasn't already working on a property before they even announced anything, and I was kind of already garnering up attention because um, I've got kids of my own. So
Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh is on. There's no getting around it for me. So I'm working on it. It's on my screen. So to me, it's just like you're attacking one of my friends, and I know that sounds convoluted, but it's just like you're disrespecting the actual essence of this character and what it stands for.
Yeah, you wouldn't want your kids to see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, and then what's that going to get? And then it's on search things. You type in that into YouTube, that comes up right away, and
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, okay.
It just made the world darker.
Yeah, unnecessarily. We
Yeah.
already have enough of that.
Well,
People are clamoring for hope right now.
well, that's the other thing that I wanted why I wanted to bring you on is because I've heard you talk that you have kids. I mean, I have one myself and a second on the way, and that's what made me kind of respect you from afar. I was like, this guy is doing it full time and he has kids. Like you, it's not like to be holier than thou, but it's like people without kids and working on art don't understand that struggle.
Right, but I think we can all understand the idea and aspect of balance. And in any way, shape, or form, we're all balancing a different. There's going to be people that work very long hour jobs, have other needs and commitments that they have to fulfill before they even maybe get to lay a line on a piece of paper, or write down some words on their thing that they're working for. Like, no one jumps into this rightfully with the idea of money being the end all be all.
Hmm.
But they're doing it because comics are a passion. I don't think anyone that got into comics did so because, like, it's not the 90s. This isn't a boom anymore.
Yeah.
There's very little to this, so that when you're getting into it, it's a passion thing. It's a labor of love. So I can empathetically uh, definitely note that, because I talk to so many other creators that don't have kids, or are in the same boat, one kid or two kids, and you're trying to balance it out, because then you also have a partner, you have someone that's relying on you, and it's okay. Tonight, do I sit and draw for the next 8 hours and screw up my whole sleep schedule, or do I take care of my family? Like, how are
Hmm.
you evening these out? How are you balancing out all these odds and ends? And I think being able to talk to the people around you, um, so that you can put your best forward, and also hear from them too. Like, that's not to say I haven't had difficulties. Like, there's some times where it's like, this month we didn't hit goal, we didn't bring in as much as we were supposed to, we're going to be eating ramen for a few days, and you have to look them square in the face and be like, hey, you know what, I made some terrible decisions, and we got to buckle up. What can I do to fix this situation? So you always have to be in constant communication with those around you, because they're the ones that are affected by what you're doing in this. Again, not to say that there isn't a chance for this to become lucrative, because comics do have somewhat of a lucrativity to behind it, but I think the percentage for that is lower than we would like to admit.
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it. Being a work of passion is because, I mean, the indie campaigns that get like a ton of attention were like Comicsgate or kind of stuff like that for a few people that had
Right,
a legacy in comics, and
right,
then people started
right.
emulating that, particularly like the drama part. And it's like, hey man, you don't have that name, nobody cares.
Yep.
And like you said earlier, a lot of people get into it thinking it's going to be like a flash, and they get paid, get a big payout, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, man, if you're not in this for like the long haul and like the slow build, I mean, you don't need 10,000 people to buy your stuff. If you're
Well,
consistent, you know.
yeah. Well, and there was a small little blip where that did happen, 2019, 2018, where
Hmm.
the floodgates opened, where people did want to, because you had the rise of the culture war hit. And
Yeah,
whether your feelings are in on that, I'm just not part of any of that
I try
stuff.
to stay out of
Um,
it.
Not just try to stay out of it. It's just I'm just so busy that
Hmm.
to engage in those sort of things is not my cup of tea, and I wouldn't know who to point a finger at. And then I get yelled at just for even talking to both sides of the aisle. I'm just like, I'm just here to have fun, guys. But um, there was like a small blip where anyone without any sort of credentials, any sort of creative work, could come up there and put up something like Detective Dead, and then make. I think he made like 60,000. I'm probably
Jeez.
off on that number, but it was a drop in the bucket. It happened for a span of time, but the unfortunate ramifications is it tainted what a lot of people think of crowdfunding. And when you come to it now, is you have to work harder to prove that you are going to bring something and you're going to fulfill on it.
Yeah.
Um, there are exceptions to those rules. There are a few people that can get by without doing any of those, the hard work beforehand. But that's why I tell so many people it's really important to build your audience, build your
Hmm.
network before you even launch. Because
Oh
if
yeah.
you're launching to an empty room, you're screaming to an empty void and no one cares. And the worst thing about what you can do is when you launch a product or even you're trying to talk to people about your project is apathy on the other end. They're like, why should I care
Mm-hmm.
about this? Because they have to care about you as well.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the big thing I think people think is you can't just throw something out there and it's not like fishing, you know, like
No, no. Well, and you got to have good bait. And I mean, if you're using fishing as a example there, I mean, there is bait that you can put out there. And I'm not saying that people are suckers and they'll just grab whatever you put out there. But again, bringing good value to the table. What are you bringing? What are you? Because they want something in return. If I'm going
mm-hmm.
to write a book and I'm just self-serving myself through the idea of the story and the characters, but it does nothing for them, then I've defeated the whole purpose of what I wanted to do. And there's a story for everyone. But again, how big is that pool? How many people are you reaching with that idea? So I generally like to stay within the shonen action sort of style because
Mm-hmm.
my stuff has a very heavy anime influence to it, which does clash against the Western sensibilities of what like a lot of people want to see. So there can be kind of like some tension there where you're like, your stuff's not as detailed, or you're like, we're just looking at things totally different. So there are some parts where you have to kind of be like, all right, we got to kind of blend these together a little bit.
No, you have a very recognizable style, even in the short time I've seen your stuff. If I saw it in the wild, if you came up with something else like Red Riding Hood, like Ghost Killer, I would know like not from the title, but I would know from like the
Right.
art. The art, it was yours.
Right. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's cool because sometimes it's hard because you're up so close to it that I, like I could tell a Jim Lee apart from anyone else. I could
Oh
tell
yeah.
Mark Silvestri from us, but I'm still trying to define my own style and figure out what exactly it looks like.
No, I'm impressed by artists because I can't draw like at all. I do stick figures for our artist. Like that's how I plan out our stuff, and then he actually does it. I just write. So anyone who can not only draw, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to draw aggro here, but I applaud you for not going a traditional straight manga route because there's 20,000 manga creators in a throw a rock and you hit one, and there's nothing
Well,
wrong with
that's
that, but.
not to say I didn't try. I just wasn't very good at accomplishing it.
There you go. There you go. Everybody tries to make a Kira and then you can't.
Yeah. No. Yeah. My biggest influence was like the artist from Death Note. And I forget his name off the top of my
Yeah.
head, and I was like, I want to draw like that. And then I looked at it, and I was like, I'm not getting anywhere close to this. This isn't gonna happen.
I think that's better than trying to beat your head against the wall and try to keep doing it. I mean, I'm not
Right.
I'm not ripping manga. I love manga. I think manga is rightfully taking over the comic book industry. Like
I agree.
I'm just saying I think anytime you reach a point where you can throw a stone and hit somebody that does something, it's like maybe we should innovate a little bit, you know?
Yes. Yes. And again, I'm not on any side of the debate. I'm one of the few, or one of the many that have grown
Mm-hmm.
tired. I'm going to use the word tired with what's happening in mainstream, and that has nothing to do with what people are saying. I'm just tired of the stories. I'm tired of the constant recycling of stories and the reboots. I want something that I can start with and then
Mm-hmm.
have a beginning, middle, and end, and follow through. Instead of going, we got 5 years into this, and then they just completely canned everything. But now I'm just supposed to be okay with this new thing we just started,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a whole entire different voice. Which I know they say always like blend your continuities, but this time where it's like, well, I can always take my money somewhere else and enjoy something that actually wants my particular involvement in. And that's not to say that there aren't things that I'm not enjoying in that area. Like I've been enjoying Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil run. Like
Mm-hmm.
that has been a huge influence on my work right now in terms of his tone, pacing, and the way that like his character work and that. Like the dude's a total goof and you would never guess it, but I love his writing on stuff currently.
I just picked up issue 1 of Ronin 2 by Frank Miller because as far as I know, that guy's still got it. Like I'm only on issue 1, but looking at the
Okay.
art and like looking at the writing, it's like, man, he's still got it somehow.
I'm gonna have to check that out because yeah, he's like classically good, and I hate how often
Mm-hmm.
he gets targeted for even old views or
Yeah.
things people just take out of context. Because you can take anything out of context from anybody says. Everyone's just looking for some sort of person to attack or be the current whatever it is, and that's on both sides. I mean, most people have an idea of what I'm talking about, but I'm
Yeah.
talking about both groups because I get so sick of it. It's like I just want to enjoy stuff.
Well, people who can't undo what other people can do.
Right.
And
And-
yeah.
yeah. we've gone through such a deconstruction of so many genres in the
Oh
superheroes
gosh. Oh yeah.
that it was okay in a few areas. Like, obviously, there's going to be parts of stories where we have to bring something down to build it back up, but we never built it back up. We
Hmm.
never got to the part
They
where,
only know how to tear down.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not, I don't want to be one of those ones that echoes the sentiment that current writers in the comic field or even Hollywood in general are bad at writing, but it seems like we've kind of substituted memes, TikTok, and weird short versions of stories that aren't as eloquent, don't fare as well, and don't have as good pacing. Which makes it more fun when you do find that diamond in the rough that really does actually still have those qualities of a good story, like good character-driven stuff. Like I'm a hardcore Christopher Nolan fan,
Hmm.
and I don't know how he would do nowadays if he were just now coming out the gate. Um, like I just love his character in depth, the way that he tells a story that you're constantly always being subverted. Like I always love that he says like his number one key is to always have like an untrustworthy narrator.
Hmm.
Like you're following the guy. Like I was just watching The Prestige a few nights ago,
Oh, wonderful
and
movie.
oh, it's so good. But it like the minute you start that movie, they're lying to you right away.
Hmm.
Like there's nothing. I don't think it's up until like what the last 15 minutes that you can actually trust what they're saying
Oh
because
yeah.
everything's unraveling. But it's one guy lying to the other guy while the other guy's lying to him on top of a lie. And I was just like, okay, there's so many layers to this story. And I know that's really hard to pull off because you have to think in so many different terms. I don't see as many books or stories um, being able to pull that off.
Well, I saw your recent video on manipulation and Chainsaw Man,
Mm,
and I liked your insight into it mainly because I'm not familiar with Chainsaw Man. I read the first chapter and I didn't pick up the book because I had to like just go. I was like on a lunch break,
right,
but
right,
seeing your analysis of it, because I was like, okay, because everything I saw of it was like, okay, it's in your face, just kind of Wolverine, but not Wolverine. But when I saw you
right.
break it down, I was like, okay, well maybe this has actual layers to it and isn't just all hype.
Yeah, and that's the fun part is Fujimoto is really good at what he puts in front of you. There's so much more happening in the background, and then what's happening in the background then comes to the forefront later on. Um, and that used to be happen more in like your older stories where they did really good job of bringing the characters around and then having all these other things happening. Um, which I'm not sure if we're current audiences would be able to handle that because it feels like we need to force feed them everything.
Yeah.
When it used to be that you had to wait 2 hours to get that explanation. Like the explanation wasn't right up. Someone telling you right away, like, oh hey, this is what you can expect. Which he also does though. He'll actually tell you what to expect, but it's just hidden in something. Like it's a piece of dialogue, and he'll actually tell you what's going to happen. But it's not until you reread it again you're like, oh my gosh, he told me exactly what's going to happen. It was just 20 chapters ago. I missed it. So I think that's good. That's good foreshadowing though. But I think a lot of writers aren't as well skilled anymore. I'm not saying that there isn't people that
Hmm.
are at that. I'm just saying the majority seem to lack a lot of that nuance, subtlety, and but the ability to still keep it in your face and tell these really good quiet stories with having the fun action in your face sort of stuff running at the same time.
Yeah, that's a hard balance. It's hard to get that. I mean, because when you see something like Chainsaw Man, I mean, it's exactly what it says. Like you
Right,
see the
right.
cover, but then to be able to add multiple layers beneath it and to because that's what I picked up from chapter one was like, okay, this kid, this he can do so much with it. I mean, I actually liked the pacing of it was because it was
Right.
super quick, and I was like, okay, that's actually it's almost a masterclass of modern manga as far as it kind of read like a what's the name of it, Dead Man Wonderland. If you've ever read that one.
Yeah, I gotta still read that.
Yeah,
That's
well,
next on my list.
had
Yeah.
that breakneck speed, but it made
Mm.
sense, and it was like it picked up immediately where it left off. And where I'm going with that is, I mean, we had what 20 years now of what's the word I'm looking for? Not deconstructed, decompress storytelling,
Uh,
especially in Marvel. Because I remember I picked up an X-Men comic like 15 years ago, and I was like, man, nothing happened in like the last three issues.
well, and that's because so many of them were writing for the trade. They knew that the whole entire industry was switching over to trades. That your comic shops were now becoming your specialty store.
Hmm.
The floppy was losing its momentum. and I always got a preference because there's always going to be that one person that's the outlier, not saying that the floppies don't have inherent value, just that what the audience wants, not you, one particular person, that the general consensus is that people wanted the whole story. They wanted to read something at all. So we also at that same point though lost the one and done stories
Oh yeah.
that you used to get like in the Silver Age, even in the 80s and 90s, where you could tell a story in 20 pages and have it really well done. But now we've gone to it's 100 pages, and that's the only way that you're going to read it. So if you pick up issue 6 or issue 4 out of a 6-issue run, you're getting like what 40% of that particular story, and it might be completely confusing compared to like watching an episode on Netflix or something, like binge watching something.
Oh yeah, well, and to tie it back, because you're the guest here, but to tie it back, what interests me about the stuff you're making is it seems incredibly action packed, while also having a story beneath it. But the emphasis is on action packed because I tried reading. I tried reading the new Amazing Spider-Man run. They were building up Red Goblin, which was Green Goblin possessed by the Carnage symbiote. And the final fight was like a page long, and that page was full of dialogue of people just talking. It was like, man, like what happened to like comics being like, high octane? You literally like, do a pull start and just go to work.
Right. Well, and then also the editors behind it. Maybe that writer is actually good at what he does, but he's being held back by bad editorial.
Yeah.
And that's so much that we don't see behind the scenes because those stories don't come out maybe 5 years. Now because of the internet and Twitter, it does come out faster, but sometimes, NDAs, contracts, they're not allowed to say. And maybe also because they want to continue to get work, they can't actually say some of the things they want to say.
That all sounds awful. Everything you just said sounds awful.
It does. It does. Unless you're Tom King and you can fire your editor and have that sort of power, which I've never heard of.
Do not get me started on Tom King. That guy ruined. That guy ruined Batman, Catwoman. I tried to read that run, and it was the most boring thing.
I was given a chance, and then we got up to the wedding issue, and I just went, "This is all garbage." It was all garbage. And he's like, "I'm subverting the story." I'm like, "No, you're not. No, that was the worst subversion I've ever seen."
Thanks, Ryan Johnson.
That's another thing too. Is these guys think that subverting it? They set you. Here's the problem though: is you set up something. You keep telling someone something's going to happen, something's going to happen, something's going to happen. And you go, "No, it's not going to happen." In fact, we're completely denying anything that was going to happen, and then we're going to call you mean for thinking it was going to happen.
It's like Lucy holding the ball for Charlie Brown.
Yes, yes. You're Charlie Brown.
That Batman Catwoman run that had the Phantasm come back, I was like sucked in. I was like, oh, they're gonna bring back the Phantasm, and the cover art was amazing. And then I'm like six issues in, and I'm like, this is the most boring crap I've ever read. And I read War and Peace, like this is bad.
Oh yeah, I got into that too, and I was like, I saw Tom King, and I was like, I'm gonna ignore the story because I just know it's not gonna be anything.
I'll ignore the story.
I tried reading the story. I was like, so. It's just people talking about things they're mad about. Nothing. She got her kid kidnapped. We're not going to even talk about why she's okay. Whatever.
If I wanted a soap opera, I could watch cable TV. Like,
my kids could tell a better story than we can regurgitate.
You're like, and have.
Yes. Well, and here's the problem though: is like speaking of like guys like Ryan Johnson and Tom King that try to use subversion to tell you they're going to do something, and then they pull something out of left field. Is I think these guys don't learn enough from guys like Hideo Kojima who do subversion of expectations. But what he does is he tells you something's going to happen, and then he alters it so much that the thing still happens, but it's not in the way you're predicting.
Yeah, he tells you you're going to get a game, and then you get a walking simulator.
Death Stranding was so weird.
Man, me and my buddy, and he is a magnificent game player. Like I'll go in that in just a second, but we streamed that entire game, and it was like 120 episodes or something ridiculous. Maybe not that many, but it was ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, he finished it. He was great at it, and he found cheats around. Like this is the kind of guy that beat like Elden Ring in like a few days, and like and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
wow.
We're probably gonna do Death Stranding too, just because that's the only way to get through that game is to laugh at it.
I put it up on YouTube and I drew for a whole night while watching it. I was like, that was a good movie. I'm glad I didn't play this.
I'm really glad I was doing something with my life.
That's some good background noise. Oh, they're on a beach again. Cool.
Well, I don't want to abruptly shift, but you're here, mainly for a reason, and I respect that. Um, I don't want you to go through everything because I know you talk about it a lot. I wanted to know Demon Hunter Raven, the general story. I mean, I want you to give a general, rundown for people who don't know, but the main thing I noticed while reading it was a strong, strong family connection.
Mm.
Like, and that's what really interested me. And I'm gonna get out your way now so you can do like your pitch because that's what you got to do. But we'll come back around to that if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. Actually, I'll just kind of go off the basis here is, you can't get connected to a character. You can't feel like you're following a character's journey, um, unless you can feel for that character. You believe they're actually going through something. Um, why should I care about what Tom King is writing if his stories are bad? I want you to care for these characters. I want there to be an actual story. I want you to work up to a build up. One of the best things I was learning about when you're directing a fight scene is people anticipate the punch, but it's after the hit happens. You show the after effect of it.
Yeah,
That's what people really want to see because, like, we can see that fist coming in. We know it's coming up. Someone's gonna get punched. Now, are they gonna dodge or is they gonna just completely blow apart their jaw?
yeah.
And people want to see that reaction to it because then the next beat after that comes in and sets up the stage. So Demon Hunter Raven really just kind of follows a I call him the ninja exorcist, and he's fighting
It's a
against these
great
demons
title.
that and he's trying to take on this demonic horde that are trying to take over the Twin Cities. And I'm sorry, I've been working on Winnie the Pooh, so I got to remember what the heck this story is now. um, but he holds one of the most powerful weapons in the Demon Hunter War in this giant story that's going on called the Lightstone. And different factions are vying for it. Some want to manipulate him, some want to steal it right off of him, and some want to kill him and just use it as their own. But he is he's so new. He has no idea what it is, what properties it has. So the story is actually exploring his journey as growing up and understanding the spiritual side of things and living his normal life and coming against these cabals, monsters, and these secret societies that are currently trying to either take him apart or do things to the city and the ongoing nature, which drives all the way back to older titles such as Winnie the Pooh, which will have some sort of cross connection that this next book will have a slight little detail on that.
Okay.
Because I love infusing the stories. I want you, like, if you're reading all the titles, that's awesome. I want to reward you because I know continuity is really important to people. I know that's one of the reasons why I walked away is I hated not being able to follow a story and be like, well, this happened 5 years ago, but now you're saying it didn't. So did I just waste my time reading that? Um, I really want to reward readers and say thank you for coming along with this ride. I'm going to feed you something really awesome so that when you read this newest chapter, you're going to have a whole entire new appreciation for what we did back in chapter 1 because there's stuff that I dropped in volume 1 that's going to be coming to fruition 2 to 3 years from now. That's how hardcore and dedicated I am to telling these stories. Is that um, there's always going to be something coming for you, and I want you to feel like a kid in a candy shop. You're just overjoyed with like, oh my gosh, there's so much here, and it's just slowly unraveling.
We'll pretend
With,
we'll pretend you're DMX and you gonna give it to him.
I am. I can't remember the lyrics yet, but yes,
It's just X
X
gonna
gonna
give
give
it
it
to
to
you.
I'm just gonna give it to you. Rest in peace, his soul. That's for sure.
No, I think that's great, man. I think what caught me about it was your and this is getting a little personal, but that's fine. Was your reverence for the source material, but by which I mean like Catholic and Christian background. It wasn't a
Hmm.
bastardization of it.
So I am a person of faith. I am Christian, and one of the biggest things is I hate seeing that stuff portrayed in a negative light.
Hmm.
So it probably seems a little contradictory for me to say that with what I did in the books. But again, the story's not done, so there's still some parts of that to be revealed. But I have a huge aversion for the splitting of the church. Much of the stories will actually be revolved around the actual church history because I find that so
Hmm.
fascinating that it's got 2,000 years worth of actual history that we can fall back on and be like, wow, this is nuts. That guy just totally died because he didn't agree with this one person. They're like, put him on the stake. And you're just like, okay. So I think there's a really fascination there of people dogmatically doing things that maybe weren't in favor or prosperous towards maybe the message or words that they're trying to give people. Maybe it was contrary or contradictive or backsliding from like where we needed to go
Yeah,
towards. And
there's an entire religion based off a guy that said that while being crucified, hey, don't hurt other people, and I forgive them. And they were and somebody was like, hey, we should kill people for that guy.
Forgive your neighbors. Hey, pick up a sword and
He's like, he's right. We should kill a bunch of people.
do that. Yeah, we should go on a crusade.
No, my artist and I, Josh, are devout Christians as well. I mean, we're not Catholic. I think there's a large.
I'm not either. So.
Okay, well, I was about to say there seems to be a large dominance of Catholics within the indie community, which is fine. I don't care.
Right.
It's
like tiptoeing some days, though.
I'm not into the whole Mary thing, but I'm not gonna let that be a cause for division.
I respect it.
Yeah,
I respect it, but not my thing.
I understand it. I mean, well, I actually I just purchased the Word on Fire Bible, which is by Bishop Barron, I think. Anyway, but
Okay.
Doug Ernst from Iconic sent me the second half of it, and
Cool.
because I love I mean, first of all, that was an amazing gift. I'm gonna thank him for it publicly when it comes in, but
Right.
yeah, I have a fascination and respect for the Catholic Church because they literally saved Western civilization, and
We wouldn't be where we are without them right now.
yeah, and
there's so much that
well, their art's beautiful, and that's why, like I said, the predominance of Catholics in the indie community, I think, is just indicative of how creative they are. Like they have
Right.
I mean, growing up Protestant, you don't really get iconography, and you don't really get cool buildings.
You're kind of told to just kind of like, nah, that you don't need that stuff. Like when I was in school, and I grew up in a Christian school, we were told Pokemon was, yeah, it is. There's some tangibility in the stories I'm telling right now with that, but like we were told Pokemon was of the devil, and we had to burn all our trading cards, and I'm like, I'm stashing them. I'm like, no, you're not taking those from me. I love Jesus, I love God, but I want to play with Pikachu too, and I want to.
This is a shiny Dragonite.
This is worth something someday.
And then you were right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is the other harder part too, is the dogmatic nature of telling stories with faith-based things, because it can really turn off people.
Oh yeah.
And the one thing I really try to pine for is that I'm not going to preach to you in these stories. I'm not going to hit you over the head with it, like, Jesus is love, Jesus is our savior. What I want to do though is show people living out that life, and some of them are going to fall short of it because we're not perfect examples. We're not. We're constantly trying to walk in it, but we are still being renewed daily by it. So that's the premise of like where a lot of Demon Hunter Raven stands at, is it's people trying to walk in that light, trying to walk out those truths, trying to walk out that daily walk in what we're supposed to be doing, but falling really short of it. And we're not quite there in the story, but there will be a point of people coming to grace and reconciliation and redemption, because I did some terrible things in my past. Like the person I am today compared to what I did even 15 years ago, it's only God's mercy that really brought me to the point where I can now stand before and have a family and do the things that I'm doing now. But I feel like that's the most powerful message of the gospel, is you don't have to stay where you are. Jesus accepts you as you are. He just wants to bring you into closer proximity and relationship with him.
Well, that's what I noticed about your character Raven, is that he's flawed.
Yeah. And stupid.
I wasn't gonna say that, but
you could say it. He's really naive in this early part. He hasn't gained mastery or understanding, and everyone else around him either is trying to manipulate him or give him wisdom, and now he has to fight between those two tangibilities of, do I listen to this guy? Because he can't tell the difference yet. He doesn't have the understanding. He doesn't have foundation. He is sand. He's built his foundation on sand.
He's coarse and he gets everywhere.
Yeah, and it's terrible. It's terrible, and I hate it.
Now, your character designs. Quite frankly, I wouldn't have you on if I didn't like your stuff. Just to be honest, I don't just farm. I don't farm content.
Because I say no to most people.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Your character design is really what caught me at first, and it was your profile picture, and I looked at your other stuff, and I was like, man, this is really cool character design.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can see of course, the anime influence, but what's cool is that you didn't run with blatant anime inspiration. You know what I mean?
I did at first. You should see the original version. It was straight up Bleach and Naruto, and it was I did a 40. No, I almost did like a 100-page version of what originally Demon Hunter Raven was.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of looked at it and I was like, this is just Bleach with ninjas. This is not very original. No, design I think is really important in terms of setting things apart.
Mm-hmm.
I really like things to like characters to stand out and have their own. Like when you first look at them, they're already speaking to you. Like
Yeah.
their characters coming out to you, and in some cases, I love doing that with certain other characters where you think they mean one thing, but they are actually hypocritical in that own nature because maybe they wear the cross, but they do not stand for that. Like that they're just they're weapons, wolves in sheep's clothing,
Yeah.
in a sort of asset. But design is really important to me because I think that's the value I bring towards defining my own route in terms of this whole entire place and making things look cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The rule of cool has been grossly overlooked for a long time.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I think that's originally like when I was a little kid getting into comics, Spider-Man, Batman, Ninja Turtles, they were just cool. Like I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
I want to check this out. And I know you can't base that on your substance. Like it can't just be like, oh, it's just cool all the time. Like you have to have substance to it. So I'm not saying like it's only cool. There's nothing else to it. But there has to be a reason as to like bringing people in. And so I spent a year designing his whole entire design, like his armor, and perfecting it to the point where it stood out enough that it looked cool. And like if people were to walk by it, people would be like, whoa. And like, because my biggest thought process always when I'm creating something is like when people are going through their phones or they're looking at something, you've maybe got 3 seconds to really grab their attention. I think at the time when I was designing it, at that point they said we had 8 seconds.
You're like
8 seconds to grab people's attention.
You're like, I gotta go electric blue or boobs.
Yes, sometimes both.
Sometimes
both. Yeah.
I really
It's
like
crazy,
I
'cause-
like the electric blue because I actually loved the blue Superman of the 90s. And I
did
know,
too.
yeah, see, I knew like nobody like should have, but I loved it. I loved the way it looked.
It's so tacky. It was so tacky. You put that on anyone else and it looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just Superman, it was weird because it
Yeah.
wasn't him.
And then he split in two, and he was like a red one and a blue one, and it just didn't.
It got weird. It got really weird. That made no sense. But again, it was like Spider-Man's Clone Saga when they were doing that. They're just like, he's not the real Peter Parker. This is Ben Reilly. He's been the real one this whole time. Spider-Man has always been kind of dumped on, I think, in comics.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're just purposely like, let's write a bad story. Let's just do that. We're going to get paid anyways.
At the
Phone at home.
Yeah, I remember the Clone Saga, and I had the Peter Parker is dead one where it started with him in a coma or whatever, and
Right.
nobody. It sucks because Ben Reilly wasn't a bad character. He shouldn't have been Spider-Man.
It was just misaligned. I always wondered, was that editorial or was that the writer? It had to be editorial because they were overseeing so many things at that time, and I don't remember there being one particular writer over the whole entire thing. Compared to like someone like a Grant Morrison or Tom King, who has
Way too much
final say
control.
over things. Way too much. Way too much.
Well, they're doing it with Batman now. There's like what 30 Batman titles a month.
Ooh, yeah, DC knew they were in the dump when they're just like, we're cutting everything else and it's just straight up Batman now. And you're like, so you want to tell us that you guys are doing financially good? No, we're doing good. What about Booster Gold? No, he's not profitable.
Now, to be
Okay, what about
fair,
Superman? He's one title.
To be fair, I'm not buying a Booster Gold book either.
I'm not either. Let's take the Justice League out completely
Yeah.
and make it a bunch of other people that no one wants to see. That will sell.
Wonder Woman Dead Earth was a good one. That was recent. But
Oh, I got.
yeah.
Yeah, I just like check out Wonder Woman every once in a while. I'm just like, oh, what happened?
It used to be
What
Wonder
happened?
Woman.
Yeah, it's like bring back Greg Rucka, even Gail Simone. I'm like, just bring back Gail Simone. She was at least good, competent. She could tell a competent story. She understood the voice of the character.
They don't I don't know. I don't I'm not I try not to be a doom and gloom guy. I mean, I do think that there is ideology behind things that results in what we get. But I think ultimately it's bad editorial decisions, probably based on bad management decisions of people wanting money right now more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, we're not seeing sales charts like we used to, and even if they are doing good, it's just the actions and the practices right now are definitely not showing a good, healthy industry, a healthy economy in terms of the comic.
Well, like we know the sales chart. It's Demon Slayer.
Yeah, oh my gosh. The fact that they outsold everyone, was it last year or two
Last year,
years
it
ago?
outsold the entire American comics industry.
And 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 then you can't even say that was a freak anomaly or something. Like there were several ones that were up in the top 10, just like Jujutsu Kaisen
Yeah.
was up beating up people last year. So, and I'm not one of those people that said manga is the new path. It's just filling that void that people want right now.
hmm
Like if they course correct and start listening to people and not just one particular party, and they make it for everyone. Not saying that those people can have what they want. I'm totally not saying that. I'm saying they make it open ended for everyone, like it used to be. Then it will clearly take back over the market. It will clearly dominate because why shouldn't it? They
Yeah.
have all the pieces there.
It's so bizarre that you'd have some of the most sold movies all time, and then you can't make these characters sell in comic books.
Right.
It's like,
Well,
come on, man.
that's the awesomeness of manga, is that Demon Slayer sold so well because the anime was doing well.
hmm
So there was this cross conversion between the two because they got synergy. We have none of that over here. Like and as creators too, we don't benefit from moving forward. It's just like cool Spider-Man. Who's getting residuals off of this now? Who's it's like, oh, we got to thank 12 different people for hundreds of different stories. Like, I mean, it's cool you get to play in that sandbox, but there's no upward momentum. Not that I'm saying there always has to be, but there's no like you make a comic, then it gets adapted into something else because there's a growing audience or there's a pathway or another door for that. And I think that's one of the biggest things we're missing in terms of the larger picture of stuff right now. But I don't even know like if there's demand for that anymore. I don't think our society even cares about that.
No, and one of the main things, and I'll let you go in just a little bit. One of the main things that's missing is punk, like punk rock, and indie comics has
Yeah,
the chance to do that because manga was that. Because I mean, in the '90s, manga was hard to find. People had to
yeah,
look for it, and it was this cool underground thing. I mean, and it's still cool, but as it becomes more mainstream, people are gonna look for the next like punk rock
yep.
thing, and indie comics could do that if they would actually do it.
Well, and our biggest challenge we face right now is the distribution model. The like compared to back in the day, like if you wanted to find anime,
hmm
you go to a Suncoast or someplace that had like the 3 episode OVAs on it,
Yeah, and it was
and you'd pay.
$20.
Yeah, and you're like, man, I got 3 episodes. When's the next set coming out? But there's no like easy access because like or we're spread too thin. You've got Amazon, Kickstarter,
hmm
personal online sites, and then maybe if you're lucky, you get into a comic book store or Barnes and Noble will pick you up, or like there's no direct route anymore. There's no way that like not everyone is going to the same place. It's not like we're
hmm
we're routing like, but that's everything like streaming services, all that stuff. It's much harder.
Yeah, the decentralization lets you have more control over your. I mean, it's like you control your characters. That's amazing,
Right.
but it is harder to get it into people's hands. But I think people just set these giant goals. Like, man, you may not make 40 grand, but you might make 2 grand consistently. And then
Right.
what you need to do is spread out from there. You got to do podcasts. You got to do short films or something. You got to do novels. You got to do books.
Yes.
And it's hard when you're the only creator. I get that, but I mean, diversification of funds is the only way to like keep moving.
Yes. Yes. And then keeping people surprised and moving ahead of yourself and that stuff. It's like I watched the Common America guys. Like
hmm
I remember when before they came out with Common America the first one, and they were still doing like um,
Like
their
Walmart.
spin-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walmart and that stuff. And then just seeing them keep topping themselves, like they're not competing with anyone anymore. They're
hmm
competing with themselves. And me and Tyler talk to each other all the time. We're like, we want to get to that next level, so that we're just out doing I mean, we're already trying to do that, but like we're still trying to reach that next level where the last campaign is out doing things because now we brought in a cool animated trailer or something,
hmm
and um, like he's bringing in statues, and I'm like, okay, we're doing statues now. Okay, how do I jump into that now?
Yeah. No, that's how
So
it has to be. There is a desire, especially. I mean, this thing is people doom and gloom in the news, but I mean,
yeah,
historically, the more like stuff gets into a depression, the more people want entertainment. Like
yes,
that's what
yeah,
people
because they
you have to write it out.
and then that's where creators need to be smart, which maybe I'm giving away something I shouldn't. But during times of cynicism where people are already having such a hard time out in the real world, they don't want to come back home
hmm
and then be doted on, nagged on, and then more depressed because they watched something that was really sad.
hmm
They want hope inspiration and something that tells them you can still make it, just keep pushing on a little bit further. It's not our job to just be like, you really suck today, you really should feel bad about yourself, you're a terrible person. No, we need to give them a clap and be like, hey, you made it this part,
Mm-hmm.
now let me entertain you, and let's go on a fun journey. Let's go pick up a sword and let's go fight some orcs.
The idea of serving your customers is lost on a ton of indie creators. And like,
I think it's because we're also in a current society where it's self-serving needs,
mm-hmm.
where we, like kingmakers, TikTok can make anybody into an instant overnight influencer. So I think there's a lot of the projection of I need to do this for myself, and we forget to put other people in front. And I'm no better. I've done that before too, where you can go months where you're helping people, then you get a little burnt out because
Mm-hmm.
everyone's trying to pie at you, and then before you know it, everyone get away from me, stop it, and you kind of start picking at people, and and sometimes it takes for someone to pull you aside, be like, hey, you're kind of being somewhat of an a-hole right now, and you're like, no, okay, yeah, I am.
You turn into a, what's his name, Bilbo, when he grabs the ring.
Yeah, that sort of deal. Yeah, yeah. But it happens. It happens, and I think though when it's consistently always happening, then you have a pattern,
Mm-hmm.
and people aren't willing to apologize. Like I've bitten off other people's heads. It's happened. I always try to be amicable at the end. Like I got into a bit of a
And Twitter
yeah.
rewards that too.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so hard not to engage in that stuff because they'll purposely put something in front of you. But that's social media now. It is.
Yeah.
It's simply to just. And I think though that's why so many people use the drama bait to gather people in, because then they can go, well, we all stand for the same thing.
Yeah.
The problem though is once they find out you don't stand for all the same things across the line,
Mm-hmm.
12 things and you miss that one, they're gonna cast you off. And you're like, well, I like pineapple on my pizza. It's like, oh,
No,
loser.
I understand completely, and like I think we're just trying to speak truth, or like, what you believe and what you think, and just consequences
Right.
be damned. But that's why I wanted to reach out. I'm trying to sign off. I'm not trying to rush out. It's just, but I got another guy coming in at 9.
It's all good. It's all
But
good.
I wanted to reach out to you, and I wanted to reach out to Tyler, because we wanted to start with guys that we respected. And like I said, I've talked with Doug at Iconic, wonderful guy, and
Yes.
I don't care what any drama anybody gets in with anybody. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm going to talk to who I want to talk to.
Absolutely. You shouldn't be punished for who you want to deal with and how you want to talk to people. I mean, and personally, Doug helped me out when I first got out the door.
Mm-hmm.
He helped back me. He helped put some forward momentum into my journey, and I thank him greatly for that. I don't have anything against him. He's been a huge inspiration for me. I mean, Soul Finder, Demon Hunter Raven, to me they go side by side.
Mm-hmm.
They're both. I mean, his book was an inspiration. As I further got on, and I just said, this guy is pushing forward. He's cultivating an audience, and he knows what he wants to put out there. How can I then go and do what he's doing? How do I do like what he's doing? So there are creators up there that are doing already what you want to do, and some of them are willing to help you out. And Doug was incredibly kind and gave me some pointers, and so I will always be respectful of what he's done for me. Incredibly classy guy in my view.
All right. Well, with that, I want you to pimp what you got going on currently, and I want to thank you for coming on. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. I would love to talk with you some more, man. This was fantastic.
Sure. Yeah, I've got Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter hitting on February 20th. It will be a little like a 3.5 week campaign. But anyways, if you want to see Winnie the Pooh fighting demons with a chainsaw, if that sounds anything cool like you and you want to look further into it, then go ahead and follow along with that. I think that is intrigue enough to get you going. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's Nick Mueller, everybody. Go check out his stuff, and thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
It was great.